Hi, I'm Romi.
And I'm Nicole.
We are two businesswomen, two colleagues, two friends who had an idea and decided to do something with it. Over the past 2 years, we've built the Daily Drip, a media platform and community for the modern South Florida businesswoman.
From Palm Beach to South Beach, we've built an audience of thousands of local business owners, CEOs, founders, executives, and more. And we did it 100% organically.
Whether it's through our blog, weekly newsletter, social media, events, or even this podcast, our mission is to offer a daily drop of inspiration as you pursue your dreams.
People ask us all the time how we did it and why we did it. Join us as we bring you along our journey and the journeys of so many other incredible local businesswomen here on Her Pursuit. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Her Pursuit. I'm Nicole Mastrangelo, co-founder of The Daily Drip, and I am here with my partner in crime, Miss Romi Wallach. We are also joined by a rock star group, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear the conversation today. We have two amazing thought leaders. I have Ciara Gravier here with the Bunker Agency. I have Lisa Rigoli with Elements of Change, and we have a special guest today. We have one of our Daily Drip community members, Casita Simpson, who is the owner and founder of Simpson and Associates. And today's episode, we're going to talk all things marketing systems. Not the creative ideas, not the graphic design, not the strategies and tactics, but the good old-fashioned, boring systems and processes, right? If I had $1 for every time people came to work with me and I had a conversation about systems and processes, and the letdown in their face is like, I thought we were going to talk about these great ideas and creative strategy. And I'm like, what if I told you marketing was nothing but like a synchronization of systems? What if I told you? That's really what it comes down to. So, Casita, I want you to kind of kick us off for the conversation, kind of introduce yourself, your background, and how you got into the work that you do.
Yeah. So I got into being a business owner because of COVID. And I had worked for so many amazing companies over the course of my career that by the time I got to this point, I was like, I could do this. This is something that I can definitely do. And starting out my business, it was straight up paralegal support because that's my background. And after doing it for a little bit of time, I realized that there was a disconnect with the processes and what I was supposed to be doing. So I'll come in as a contractor and they'll advise me, okay, I need all these things done. And my first question is usually, what processes do you have in place? Like, what is your client journey? What does that map look like? And how do I come in and help out with all of these things? Like, where is it that you have things documented? Email templates, for example, specific reminders that you want sent out. Do you have a theme, a tone that you would like to communicate with your clients? I want to make sure that I'm following your lead. Do you have anything that could give me that? And they didn't. So I would then create it because for me, I like to be able to document everything and know that if someone came after me, they would have like a nice little holy situation going on, a little Bible of sorts that they could use to be able to say, okay, this is how I run this business. This is how I make things happen. And it wasn't really until I had a really big account that just got terminated that I realized that I needed to make a switch. And at that point, I decided, okay, well, paralegal support's great, but then I realized that what I'm doing is not actually a part of paralegal support. So I had a heart-to-heart with one of my loyal clients who I still have now, and she said, you need to separate this. This is something that you need to make separate. It needs to be a separate service because paralegals aren't really viewed for this. And the rest is kind of history because now I get to work with attorneys every single day, just helping them really systemize their processes, create some organization, and leverage the case management system to automate as much as possible to really free up their time, because I don't think people really quite realize how much of an asset a CRM can be, how much of an asset a system that has built-in automation and integrations can really change the world for your business. It can take it something where you're literally sending out agreements, invoices, and all those things piecemeal to having one document that you send out as a link, and it has all three of them already there. It has your proposal, it has your nice agreement, and then it has the invoice. They can't come out of that particular, they're locked into that trifecta until they do all three things. Game changer, and it's a time saver. And I just really enjoy doing it. And I think that it's because I worked for corporate for so long. I've been able to get that background to be able to say, okay, this is how they do it over there and we need to bring it over here because small to mid-sized businesses need it just as much as these corporate businesses do, if not more, because they're trying to figure themselves out and want to make sure that, everybody wants to do things right. Everybody wants to make sure that they're set up for success. And the organization, as boring as it may seem, definitely sets you up for success because it allows you to just think about things a little bit differently.
I love that you said client journey.
Client
I love
journey.
that because, and I have to say, you're so right in terms of, I think the small to medium need it even more because I worked corporate for 1.5 years, which is about all I could tolerate. But reclaimed my soul before it was all gone. But I learned to appreciate how important it was. And I think what happens, especially as a small business owner, like you're keeping so much of it in your head, trying to do so many things. And like the end of the week comes and it's like, oh my God, I forgot to send this out. I forgot to call this person. And if you don't know how to even set that up or where to begin.
So I have a question. What does CRM stand for? What is a CRM service?
So CRM is literally just case relationship manager, and it's affectionately known as case management system as well, or a legal practice management system. There's these little terms that go with them, but really what it is a centralized place for all your things where you keep everything. You want to talk leads? They're there. You want to talk about onboarding a person? It's there. You can do it in there. You want to talk about managing, especially for the legal people. If you want to talk about managing a case, you can do it all there. And that's the beauty of it, because instead of having an Excel sheet, your emails, all these separate things that are trying to get you to be organized, it's all centralized in a system. I literally had my client yesterday tell me that she was so grateful that I pushed her to move into this case management system because all of our notes are there. We were using Asana previously, and I was trying to tell her how going into just putting a little bit more dollars on it and going into just a simple case management system, start off low, introductory pricing, will be a game changer because everything, every note, anything that's going on, even the communications from the clients, you're able to all set that up and have it all in one place. So you see, all right, Bob said this, now I can go and do this. And no one's confused. Everyone that's working with you, even if you hired someone off the road tomorrow and say, okay, come work for me, they'll at least see something and know kind of how to help you. But it all starts with having a process, and then it all starts with setting up the system to be able to do the things. But everything's managed there. You want to talk about marketing, tracking a return on your investment, guess what? The system can do that too. And it can give you a nice projection of what you're expected to earn if you put in what your target goals are for the year.
You said it would be boring. I mean, right? Like
industry has their.
And I was just going to say, what is yours
about
look like?
So I have so I'm an insurance agency, and in my space we have specific ones. There's the players like HubSpots and the Salesforces, right? But we do have specific ones, just like law does, that come pre-built, right? And they're really good. The one that I use, I tried to build my own, and it was so overwhelming because I'm not a technology person. I'm a business owner and I sell insurance, and I tried and I hired somebody, and it was almost such a blank slate that it was overwhelming. So I went back to one that was already like tailored for the insurance industry, and I hired someone in my space to help me build it out. Right. And they asked and I do all of that too. I have pipelines for my new business. I have pipelines for my renewals, a claims pipeline, and we run our business. Our agency is ran out of this Agency Zoom, which is what it's called. And it's our central hub. Yeah. Everything but document storage is there for us. We run everything out of there. Text messages, emails, everything.
Because even just from a perspective of marketing, there's like two kinds of marketing, right? There's the marketing for share of market, right? And that's where you're going to be attracting new people into your pipeline. Mm-hmm. Then there's the marketing for share of wallet. And that's where all the people that have already done business with you and engaged with you, you're communicating with them and marketing to them new products and services, or you're trying to upsell them into your higher tier or cross-sell them into new things. And that marketing is so critical. That is really where business growth happens. It doesn't happen in share of market. It doesn't happen in lead gen. It happens in building share of wallet, building transaction value, repeat business, all these things. And so a central hub or a central tool that you can use to house all your activity, whether they are a new prospect, new to the ecosystem, or they've moved through the pipeline a few touch points, or maybe they're a longstanding client, you can access all these people and communicate to them Whether you're communicating marketing stuff or whether you're communicating just your client experience, like the notifications and the reminders and all the important things just to make the experience smooth is so critical.
And something that I agree on, small businesses need it more, right? Because we don't have the capital to have the human bodies, right, to call or to do those things. So in my space, what I decided to do, the way I approached it was, what can I have technology do for me before I have to hire someone, right? So for example, and what about duplication of entry, right? I'm entering Nicole's name, address, phone number, email into 4 systems. Now I do it once and the system puts it everywhere else. If I have to do that for 5 times a day, I get an hour back of my time.
Think about it.
It's really low-hanging fruit that we take for granted that we're just doing every day, that when you're alleviated from that, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And then you want more of it, right?
I have a number for you. 30% of businesses waste a lot of time on tasks that do not generate revenue. 30 to 40%.
And I think that's where you have to look at the upfront cost being the long-term benefit. And so while some people may say, well, maybe I'm not at that stage yet. I was working in a startup and I kept getting that pushback. And I'm like, but the idea is we're headed in that direction. Why are we going to wait for a maximum impact, then have all this data in multiple places and then start? Like, why wouldn't we start? And there's a lot of programs, that you can buy that are not super expensive, but at least you have it starting off in a clean space rather than like getting to the point where you've got like boxes of clutter everywhere, which is how I see it.
And also financial, yeah, there's a savings there. But what about the integrity of the data? If I'm entering Nicole's name, the chances are I'm going to misspell her name or your last name 1 out of the 5 times I'm typing.
Mastrangelo?
Sometimes I hear it with an I, or I'm multitasking and I swap something or the email's wrong, and then you lose the integrity of your data versus the chances of you getting it right once are very high.
Right.
Right. And I think that's such a good point that you brought up too. You both bring up a good point, is the importance of doing it from the beginning, because I got to imagine, Casita, for someone to hire you to come in a year or 2 into the game with separate softwares and platforms holding different information for different clients at different levels or prospects and things, and then to have you come and consolidate it, that's got to be a monster service. Right? How long does that take typically?
Honestly, so I have a project that I'm currently sending back over for delivery right now. And I would say prior to this, I was quoting about 3 months. But this particular project, because it had such a large volume of data and data migration was a huge component to it, yeah, this project is creeping close to 5 months. But the reality of the situation is that it happened in stages. So, they're transitioning from 2 other systems into 1. Right? So they're going from having 2 separate systems into now having everything centralized in 1 system. That's a big undertaking because you're taking data from both systems and then putting them in. But before I even started this, I did the workflows. I did the email templates. I did all the things that were foundational. And then I said, okay, let's take the data.
So you focused on the customer experience journey first.
Yes.
Like, what do you want to happen from the minute they say, yes, I want to work with you?
Yes.
How many touch points does an average client of yours have?
An average client has about, if we're not talking about once they're a client and we're only focusing on the onboarding or the pre-onboarding space, I would say about 5.
And then once they become a client, do the touch points vary?
Yes, it increases definitely more than 5. For sure. Because depending on the practice area, right? So obviously, I mostly work with attorneys. And let's say, for example, intellectual property. Let's specifically say trademarks. We're talking about once the person is coming in, if they're only doing trademarks, there's a touch point to have them review their comp search, to then have them review like whatever specimens they provided to make sure that it lines up with what they're trying to do, approving whatever classes are being recommended. Then, we'll do the trademark application. Then they have to approve the trademark application. Then we submit the application, but then there's a waiting period. If there's an office action, then there's another touch point because we have to tell them about it. Publication, another touch point. Wow. Statement of use, if the mark is not currently being used in practice, that's another touch point. And then, once it reaches to the place where it's about to be registered, there's another touch point. And lastly, there's the whole big finale where they get the certificate and then you send it off in a nice little box. That's the final touch point. So
Imagine having to do that for times, however many clients.
Well, and I was going to say, I think like we're focused right now on like how beneficial it is to the business owner, which is very evident, but the benefit to the client that you're working with, like the fact that things are not slipping through the cracks because you're relying on human error alone, right? And catching things that, especially when you're talking about law, are so time sensitive. You don't want to be missing deadlines. And it was interesting because I was talking to an attorney last week and he was talking about how he's having a hard time finding new people and he needs some extra hands on deck. And because I know Casita, I was saying to him, I'm like, have you like considered optimizing and what your automation looks like and what your systems look like before you make that leap? Because maybe there's a lot of things there. And he was like, huh. I was like, well, you must meet Casita. And I connected them. Well, because I think like it was, even if if he's ultimately going to have to bring somebody in, at least let him, whatever, come into a clean and ready to roll. Even the onboarding for that person will be seamless once everything's organized. So
I have a question for you, Lisa. You recently started your business. When did you launch?
So on my own, 2014, while still juggling a day job.
Oh my God. And then when did you go completely?
2022.
2022. And what did you use or approach? Like, what was your method or process when you said, okay, now I'm going on my own. I'm a solopreneur. This was pre-team. Like, how did you set yourself up for finding business, converting the business, then fulfilling the services and keeping all that communication consistent?
I feel like don't judge me when I say this answer.
You are all of us.
And I say that because I literally in my mind was an executor. So I was like, I have it in my mind and it's just me. I'll figure it out. So Post-its were posted everywhere for my leads and I had it color coded. I was like, oh, I'm going to use Google Drive because I can have client folders. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to do ClickUp. And then I'm going to use ActiveCampaign. And the list goes on and on of all the different resources I had. So in my mind, when I started building out my team in 2023, I was like, we're good. Like everything's good. Things should feel good. When I started onboarding them, they were like, you want me to go where? And then I got to go where? And I'm like, oh, in my mind, it felt like it flowed nice, but it was not clear on where someone should go. And it was actually really, really messy. And we're hitting the pause button and we're only using one platform to figure out how we give that journey for our clients as well as my team. How do they know where they need to go? But Post-its and several other platforms was my...
It's crazy.
I write on envelopes half the time.
Listen,
like I've got notes on bills and mail, like on the back of it. I'll start making lists.
You don't even want to know what is in here. Okay, if this thing goes missing, like God help us, we're out of business. I'm just joking.
Well, we're relying on my memory half the time, which is not good, by the way. Like,
no, but it's like the notes, my Apple notes or my iPhone notes are like ridiculous. It's bananas. It's
if
true.
you couldn't search for it, you probably wouldn't even know what's on your notes.
Oh, it's a mess.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny because like when you hear this too, like it's such a challenge to do this because I just went through this recently too because it's just the way I've always done it. And now I have to expect someone to understand how I do it.
And get in your mind.
And it doesn't work when they don't think that way, when maybe the system sucks, right? Like there's so many factors. But when you think about it, like it was probably painful because I know you scaled drastically. And what a reason to celebrate, right? Because it's like the pain it's worth it because look at where your business has gone
100%
from that
100%.
exercise.
How many new people did you onboard just in this year?
In this year alone, 8.
8 new people. So
You can't
how
do that with Post-its.
No, you can't. You can't.
you have to see her work. You should see her with a white paper and Post-its. It's pretty badass. So
She can,
But
I can't.
But half my team are like, wait, what is that Post-it that just fell?
Yeah.
I'm like,
right.
Yeah, it doesn't have a little sticky adhesive anymore. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So how have you used a system like this for either lead generation, sales process, onboarding, client experience and fulfillment? What tool did you use and how are you leveraging it from a training perspective, like a team perspective?
So we now, truth be told, we only use 2 platforms. We use a platform called Kajabi, which is our learning hub. Okay. And then we use ActiveCampaign, which is an email provider. And then what we have done is from our client journey versus our team member journey, we started from the second of when a client signs on, what does a client need to do from start to finish versus what does my team need to do? And the email actually is what we thought was a little bit more user friendly. It pushes out an email that's like, hey, this is the week that you should be on X step. This is what you should be doing. If you need to know how to, click this link and there will be a video that takes you to Kajabi. So it works for our clients and our team members. And now they get to see it. So for my type A's that are like, well, I physically need a video, they can go to Kajabi. For my other ones that are like, just tell me where I need to be and like how I have to show up, the email works great for them. So these two platforms by itself, even lead gen is in that as well. Like, hey, how do you want to know how to work with us? Click on this video. We'll walk you through what an experience is like with Element of Change.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
You know me, guys, and goosebumps.
But we're living in a time where it is so critical, the client experience. The service is almost secondary, I think. Like, our clients are looking for something that is seamless, that is not going to be burdensome. They have a million things going on. And so if they have to do all the work, that's where you're going to lose them. Whereas the easier you make it on them, the happier they are. And then it just, everything flows. And the results are amazing.
It's the key to raving fans and referrals, literally. Like, your referrals lie in your experience and surprising and delighting people. And today, a surprise and delight is I don't have to follow up with you. That email came before I had to ask you, and it had a video link in it, and it had my attachments, and I'm done. When I have someone ask me, who do I use for insert service here? You better believe I'm going to go to the person that does the homework for me and makes it easier on my life. And, it was super interesting. I read this article on, random Instagram scroll, but I read an article that was talking about how a lot of big thought leaders in tech space and AI are predicting that by 2044, we will be a solopreneur marketplace. Wow. And they're also predicting that even the big businesses, like the are going to really look a lot like the way Romi and my business looks, or the Daily Drip, where it's a big business, a big brand operating with a team of 3.5. Wow. Why? Because of all the tools and systems and technology that are built in and in place. And we have quite a bit. Like, we use tools like Zapier, we use tools like Airtable, and I know this much, about how these tools work. But thank God she knows less. But thank God we have people on the team. Like, thank God for my brother who built the website and integrated these tools and knew which tools to use and leverage. That literally was the difference in our cash flow, because had we had to hire even a VA to help do the services that those tools do for us, we wouldn't have had the cash flow and the means to invest in some of the initiatives that we did that took us to the moon, literally, in a year.
And you're talking about it from a customer experience, but what about a team experience, right? How can you attract talent when you don't have the technology, right? You're not going to get high achieving top performers to work for you if you don't have these systems and you don't provide a path up for them to do their job without friction.
There just needs to be some structure. Right. It really just boils down to a structure. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've had conversations with attorneys and I'm just like, we just need to have some kind of structure. There just needs to be something in place to let people know, like, where to go and what to do certain things. You're mentioning earlier on, you had mentioned like the data being synced up and being like real and accurate. That's why a lot of these platforms will have something like a contact form that you can embed on your website. Embedding that information on your website innately just allows that data to just come in right from the customer's own typing. Like, if something was miskeyed, they did it. It wasn't on you. And it's a matter of just being able to understand who you're speaking to. Like, who is your audience? Who are you trying to work with? And what do they usually like to see? Everybody likes to feel like they're the one of many. Everyone likes to feel that. So being proactive and responding to emails before they come to you, every client I work with, that's like something that we always strive for at Simpson and Associates, because I don't like that feeling of having to have someone be like, okay, so where are we on this? It's like hot potato. I heard my attorneys that I work with and like, okay, can you review this? Because I'm feeling that itch. That means they're going to reach out. Like, let's get on top of it, because at the end of the day, we want to surprise and delight. We want to make sure that we're doing a great job and giving a great experience. And I know that that's the reason why I focus on the client journey before I do the other stuff like the data migration and things, because I know their world. I hear the complaints. I used to hear the complaints. So that's another reason why in doing this, I focus so deeply on what is your structure when it comes to your clients, because I've been on the side of it where I've worked at a firm and the client's calling, complaining like she hasn't spoken to the attorney. She hasn't spoken to anyone. There's no updates. I don't know what to tell her. And so I'm like, I do my best to finesse her so that she doesn't know that I don't know, but it really comes back to just having some structure.
And I would say too, it comes back to also knowing your ideal client and the prospects that you're going after because of that expectation, right? Like in my space, if I'm going after a contractor, they don't want to be spoken to as frequently as maybe an attorney would like, right? Like you can't build out a journey if you don't know who you're trying to attract or talk to. So what that work is super crucial to do upfront. It's more than just the tech piece. Right. Honestly.
Well, I think just the fact that she said she starts with the workflows says it all. And what we mean by workflows is, what is it that you want to happen? And that is an answer you have to give outside of the tech software that you're using, whatever it is. It's I want someone to receive a notification about something, or I want to communicate this at this point in time because of. And you've got to be able to answer the because of. And if you can't, then that's where you can have unnecessary communications. You can over communicate, you can under communicate, or you can communicate the wrong thing at the wrong time. And all of that, impacts the experience.
To add to that, if this, then what? Because that's another layer to it, right? Because you have this, you have what you just said, but if this happens, now what happens? Because you have those instances too where, okay, well, Becky might not have filled out the contact form. So if she doesn't, what do you do now? What happens now? Right. And the workflow is supposed to indicate and continue on and tell her an exit rule saying if someone does this, they'll exit out of here. So they're not a part of this workflow anymore.
It's the only time my Post-its actually make a comeback. Because when I build out my workflow, I build it out with Post-its so I can move it when I'm asking those questions, because you have to see the visual. But other than that, my Post-its
she's hanging on into your life.
Also, too, like if you think about the client journey, you don't treat a referral the same way you treat an online lead. If somebody went to my website, the email that went out, it's not, or if I'm entering a referral into my system, it's not, hey, thanks for filling out my form on my website. Right. Yeah, exactly. So even the initial communication, right? Like if you're going onto my website and filling out a form, we don't know you, it's a little more aggressive than if Romi sent me a referral where I would pick up the phone maybe in my workflow and then trigger the automations. Even that, business owners need your help with that because it's so deep.
Well, I love what you just said, because what you're talking about is really a comprehensive workflow where you're integrating systems and AI and the human touch. And that is really what makes a beautiful, spectacular workflow, where you can have automation supporting human touch and white glove service and picking up the phone at critical touch points. There's critical moments. We learned that even just with the membership. Like we have an automated email when you become a Daily Drip member that says, welcome to our community. And it has kind of like a directory of what next, right? Like what next? Where should you go? What should you do? And it was all great. But then we realized like we were missing that human touch. And a lot of the reason people come to the Daily Drip is either because of me, because of Romi, or because of one of you guys. Right. And so now that we're bigger, they're not coming because of me and Romi. Now they're coming because of you guys. So we don't know them yet and we want to know them. So we integrated into that welcome email, please book a call with Romi or myself so that we can meet you and learn about you, who you are, what you do, and really show you around and put a little context to these next steps. And the feedback we've gotten on just that one little change we made in our workflow, because we injected a little humanity into it, it was crazy.
I think there's a misstep with business owners, at least in the beginning, and I had an experience where they're so focused on the service or product that they're delivering that they're not focusing enough on how critical it is to deliver that kind of experience. And so I was working on a project where I was constantly coming up with that. I'm like, okay, I met with this person And I'm asking what's next, and I'm working for it, on that side of it. I said, how can I deliver a good client experience when we haven't even created that? Now it's just kind of like, so I would say that for anyone starting something new, like, there's no doubt you started your project, your business, because you're confident in what you can deliver. But I would heavily emphasize the experience part of it, because you are going to be one of many in that space. What differentiates you is how that experience is going to be, what their journey is like from the minute they start talking to you.
100%.
And on that note, I'm curious, with your experience, are people skipping that step because they tell themselves it takes too long? Because I have to imagine, even when I made that mistake, it was because I was growing so fast. I knew I had to slow down, but I was like, I don't even know where I would have time to do it. And curious if you're noticing that too.
Exactly what you just said is something that I hear often in terms of like, I don't have the time. I know this needs to change. I know that my team is giving me like the feedback that this needs to change, but I don't have the time to actually make the change. It's usually, there's some of that, and then there's some of, okay, I did this. I tried to do this. It's not working anymore. Please help me because I don't know how to continue this on. Or they hired someone and the person was a novice, or they did not do all the things, and then I come in and I fix that too. So it's like a mixed bag, depending on where that business owner is. I notice that people who are in business longer are quicker to be like, okay, like this isn't working, let's fix this. Let's switch things up. They're not so married. But then you have people who like have maybe been in practice like 20 years. Those jokers do not move at all. Like they're completely married to what they have. And so for those folks, you just have to say, okay, your limitations are here and here. If you want to make a little bit of a change, we're going to have to shift this a little bit, but just meet them where they are. But it's a mix. It's really a mix. But there's a handful.
I have a question to piggyback on that, because that's a good one. And you got to imagine it's the making the time to change. Do you have any tips or best practices, or how do you approach someone who comes to you and says, God, this is so broken and I'm just making it work because the candle's lit at both ends and I have no time to work on this? What do you say to that person, or how do you approach? Like, how do you alleviate the time to change?
A couple of different ways. It depends on the person. So oftentimes I'll tell them, usually it's a mind thing. I tell them to just write everything down, just brain dump, and send me the brain dump. If it's better for you to record it on a Loom, record it, send it to me. It's better if you voice record it. Whatever it is going to be for you to get it out, just get it out. And then I'll map it out. And then we'll have a conversation and we'll talk about what you said, if this aligns with that, so that you're not so stressed out about it. Because that's the other thing. When you get to this point, it's like a melting pot. It's like, I just need this thing done, and it's causing so much stress to the point where it's like, you can't even breathe. I've had it. I've heard it. Yeah. Where people say, I can't breathe because I know that I need to make some moves here and I don't even know. Like, it's debilitating to a point because you can't even, it's like failure to start. You don't really know where to go. So I'm just like,
It's this idea of having to work off an old broken system while building a new one, because that business is still happening. Those communications, those projects are still in motion. So you've got to, and I mean, if you have a team, even more challenging, you've got to keep everybody moving while simultaneously building the new game plan, the new playbook. That's got to be challenging. But I kind of like that idea of just brain dump the way that is easiest for you to brain dump.
And also introducing it to the team, right? The worst that can happen is that 20-year-old business that doesn't want to change anything, because then I have to deal with my team and changing a system. Right. And then the employees, they've been doing it a certain way. They don't want to change. Oh, Bob is never going to change the way he does it. So you got to get buy-in from the employees. So, and also I think, speaking from experience myself, sometimes you implement these things and then it's technology. Right? It breaks. And it doesn't always go 100% of the times, right? Like, you don't understand how upset it makes me when I see high business name, right? Instead of saying, hi, Nicole, hi, Lisa, and it's a CRM, it didn't pick up that my contact had an email. So it sends out, hi, daily drip. I'm just like, but then I have to remember, okay, it's technology. It's not 100%, but it's way better than if I'm paying someone to send a welcome email, right? Like, you also have to build that in. I'm assuming the expectation of, listen, it's not always going to work 100% of the time, but there's safeguards in place for that. We could fix it. That's why it's important to review it quarterly or assess it. You think something might work. It's happened to us a couple of times. You think a workflow works after trying it. There's a better way to do it. So it's also a lot of that too, which is why the 20-year-old business, it's challenging because it's so much change.
Right. Yes. It's,
Yeah, you have to audit it for sure to make sure that it's doing what you wanted it to do.
So while I'm doing the workflows, I'm doing a lot of testing while it's happening so that I'm catching things as it's happening. But oftentimes, to your point, there are instances where it still happens after the fact. And it's just about going back in and tweaking it. And another thing, too, is that we have to keep in mind that this is technology and it's ever changing. Updates happen all the time. And it may not have been that the system didn't pick up that thing. It may have been that there was a darn update that made a switch in caused a wrinkle in the timeline for you to make it happen that way, which happens all the time.
That's why it's so crucial to have somebody like you and not somebody like me trying to do it myself.
I was just going to say, so is it safe to say for all our listeners that someone like you or Simpson and Associates, right?
Specifically
Simpson and Associates, right? Can help them through the brain dump process? Well, I would say even taking it a step back, you'll probably be a great resource in helping them identify the symptoms. Yes. Right? That it is time. Yes. You know, they may have those burning symptoms like you hire on a team, Post-its aren't working. You're trying to create your own. Okay, if it ain't broke, let me go use this one. Like, right? So you have these symptoms, but you can really try and help people see really the limitations. You know, they may think they're one size, but really they might be limited in more ways than one, helping them with the brain dump. And then from that point, you're going to go and and create the workflows and then implement the software. Girl, I'm so glad I have your number. I literally, you are out there saving cives.
Honestly.
Oh my gosh. And so is it a project-based service or can people keep you on retainer as Ciara is talking about to just make sure through updates, through kinks, through team support, maybe we have new team members coming on. Can you assist with all that, like team onboarding and handling new additions or updates to software?
Yeah, so I get asked that question all the time, and I do. There is a whole process for the project and the implementation. That's one side of it, but then there's also maintenance. And I created the maintenance, to your point, it already is baked in to be quarterly. There's quarterly assessments because every 3 months, something had to have changed in the last 3 months. I've seen things change every week in one system. But I digress. Yes, I do have a maintenance plan that allows people to subscribe. It's a 3-month commitment, hence the quarter, so that they can decide how much they need. I usually start them off with one or another. If they've worked with me before, then typically they just need the intro pricing because I've already did most of the bulk of the work. So now we're just going to maintain it. I do have an option available for people who haven't worked with me and they just want to start implementing things, but they don't want to be as aggressive as, the 3 to 4 month quote. They want to maybe take it longer and make it maybe be about 12 months. There's a maintenance plan for them too. So I try to cover all grounds because I know that for some, it's just a matter of, okay, let's make sure this information is inputted and that's it. For others, it's not even about what things need to be updated. It's more so maybe even the training. And so that's baked in as well, which covers and allows them to maybe have 3 hours in person if they wanted me to help them train, or it would be 3 1-hour sessions for the quarter, depending on what they needed. But the training is there. And I know I mentioned Loom. I'm kind of obsessed with these Loom videos. Shout out to Loom.
Have you ever used Tango?
No.
You guys.
Change my life, please.
I'm gonna send you a Tango.
Okay.
It screen grabs every click you do.
Okay.
On the screen.
Yeah.
So I have my workflows done like that, and I use OneNote. I recently just started doing this because I hired a virtual employee, and I realized, well, if it's hard for somebody in my office to understand how I do things, imagine across the world.
Right.
How can I communicate to her what I want? Right. So Tango is life changing. Tango.io, I believe it is. Okay. I pay like $20 a month, and I have a workspace. It's the Bunker workspace, and so I have like a workflow for entering a new lead.
Yeah,
and it screen grabs, and every click you do, it screen grabs, and then you go in and you edit. You could add context, you could highlight, you could blur information, you could put arrows. It's amazing. I will send it all to you.
And there's video with this too?
It's a
it's
it's a
only the
screen grab,
clicking.
but so I do both. I do Loom for
Okay.
those that prefer
Yes.
the Loom, because there's some people that want to hear it. Like, and
Yes.
I'm actually more of a Loom girl too. Like,
Yeah.
I rather hear you walk me through it.
Right.
But I do both because for some of them don't really require that.
Yeah, I've had a time or two my own self where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to watch this video. Just get me to the steps. Just tell me how to do the thing really quick. Like, I don't want to watch this video.
It's great. I'm telling you, it has been a game changer for us because it's step by step by step. You could tweak it, and then we have it there in the OneNote for
It's
each
consistent.
subject.
You're
Yeah.
not
We're
explaining
even
it to
documenting
somebody
it.
different each and every time. It's consistent. So whoever's coming in is getting the same information, and they're all going to be operating.
Scalable.
Yeah.
It allows you to scale, like Lisa said. And also, when you think about it, and this is painful for me, and it has been a painful process for me, but like everything needs to be, everything has a system. So if I'm documenting something, I need to document it every single way, at the same time, the same way every single time. So it's not just onboarding. It's not, so when you come down to it, it's like, man, everything in your business has to have a system.
Right, exactly. But the beautiful thing about you creating these OneNotes is that no matter who comes into your establishment, you could just say, here, okay, figure it out.
I don't have to spend hours and hours. And so now I have somebody in my office that's learning some new stuff. So I'm telling her, hey, Sophia, make the tango and the loom, and then let me see it. So I don't have to do it.
Oh, even better. Even better. Okay, so I'm going to ask the question we all want to know. Please tell us you work with other people besides attorneys. Everybody listening wants to know, because you know we got a lot of consultants out there. We got a lot of financial people, insurance professionals, and they're all wondering, is she going to work with me?
Yes. So I have worked with some non-attorneys. I've actually worked with some consultants. I had the privilege of working with someone that literally was doing one of the things that I said, where she was sending out an agreement and sending out an invoice, and we got her all set up inside of Dubsado and created these beautiful proposals that then linked up to her agreement and her invoice, and even down to her speaker kit and all the things. Like, we cleaned all of it up, and everything is centralized inside of Dubsado. And we even created email templates so that whenever she's in a rush, she could just click on the email template. It already has the proposal that she wants to send out as a link with all her company colors and fonts and all the things. So yes, I'm selective with the ones that I work with because I want to make sure that I can add value. For me, adding value is important. The money is great, but if I can't make you see why this is going to work for you, and you're not able to also open up to me to want to work with me, it doesn't necessarily work. But I do work with other brands. Yes.
Oh my gosh, Casita, music to our ears. I am so glad that you joined us today for this episode, and that all of our audience and everyone listening can hear. And so I hope that you guys walked away with a few key takeaways, which is it time for you to audit your workflows? Is it time for you to audit your systems and processes? Or are you already feeling the burning pain of broken systems or no systems? And if so, you really got to reach out to Casita. And for all of our Daily Drip members out there, she's offering the most amazing member perk where she's going to give a complimentary audit, which is $1,000 service that she does for businesses to get them started. And she's offering it for free for our members. So if you want a checkup on your systems and processes, you want to see if there's any efficiencies you're leaving on the table, optimization you're leaving on the table, if you know you're going to be scaling up and bringing on team members, get Casita in there. I mean, my God, what are you doing? Ain't nobody got time for that. Okay. But thank you all for listening. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for sharing your tips, Lisa and Ciara, too. And Casita, we're so glad that you're a part of the Daily Drip community and that you're offering such a great value to help our businesswomen. So thank you, everybody. And we will all hear you and see you back on another episode of Her Pursuit.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Her Pursuit. You can catch a new episode every other Wednesday. Please don't forget to subscribe or follow so that you don't miss out on any of the good stuff.
We love bringing you free content and value to help inspire and motivate you. So if you enjoyed this episode, throw us a thumbs up, leave us a rating, a review, and send this to a friend who you think would enjoy it. Your support is so important to us, and we wouldn't be able to do any of this without you. So thanks for listening. Talk to you in 2 weeks.